she used to be so prayerful. My mom used to pray so much. Like, I remember I used to console myself and tell myself, I know one thing is for sure, even if mom one day dies, I know she'll go to heaven, you know.
Maybe one small regret I can say I have was when my aunt asked me if I wanted to go to the morgue, I said no.
So you never got a chance to go and
Exactly.
see.
I never got that closure. I never got to see my dad gone. So in my head, my brain would still tell me, imagine one day I'll walk up in Tao and I'll just see him.
I want you to know that I carry you in my heart always, and your memory will never fade. I strive to live a life that would make you proud, honoring the values and principles instilled in me. Though you may no longer be physically present, your spirit lives on in the kindness I show to others, the love I give to my family, and the dreams I pursue with determination.
I met a man. I would have hoped he'd have asked you for permission to marry me. But I know he's the right one, or at least I hope he is. I see a lot of similarity between you and him, especially in how he takes care of me, and every time he smiles, I actually see him in you. I see you in him.
Hey awesome viewers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Lilian Zawadi, and if you're all about positive vibes, life lessons and life experiences, you've clicked on the right channel. If you're here for the first time, thank you for joining. I hope you subscribe. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button, comment and share with your loved ones. If you've been here before, thank you so much for the love and the consistency. Continue telling your friends about this channel where we share about the life lessons that we all go through. And so today I want to talk about something very sensitive, a triggering topic, and for that I've invited a friend so that we can talk about losing a parent, either mom or dad. And I've invited someone close to me, a friend of mine who we share the same experience, so that we can have this conversation and let you know how these things happen. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. So welcome to my channel.
Thank
and feel
you.
at home. So introduce yourself and tell us, and tell the people, tell my fans who you are. And yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Julie and I'm Zawadi's friend, as she has said. I'm very, very, very honored to be here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming, and I'm so happy to see you. And I'm so happy that you accepted my invite so that we can have this conversation. And I know it's not an easy thing to talk about. It's not something that people talk every other day. It's not something that most people are willing to share about what they've been through. And so when I thought, when you accepted to join me on the show so that we can have a conversation, I was happy, and I hope, yeah, we can be able to talk and see how this goes. So yeah, so yeah, tell me, who did you lose?
So I lost my dad 10 years ago, I would say, or more than 10 years ago, 2013. So
2013.
This year we are clocking, I think, 11 years.
Were you in
Yeah, I was
school
in high school. I was in the last year of Form 4.
Okay.
I was just about to sit for the national exams.
All right.
It was a big blow.
I
It had been a long journey. He initially got an accident about 2 years before he
Before
actually
he died.
passed. Yeah. So he got an accident and he fractured his spinal cord.
Was it like a car accident or?
Yes, it was a car accident. So he fractured his spinal cord, and after that, of course, you know, neck down, he was paralyzed for a while. At that point as a child, of course, you're very, very confused. I mean, my dad for me was my hero. We were best friends. I remember even my mom and I didn't have a good relationship because there was that, I was just so, exactly, I was daddy's girl forever. So we were into each other, we enjoyed spending time together, and my dad was a very intentional father. So he used to take a lot of time, and by the way, I would say, I think that's the important thing of parents being present in their child's life, because sometimes you just never know how much time you have with your child.
That's for sure.
So I grew up in a really nice family. My dad was very present. So by the time the accident was happening, I was very, very shocked. But something in my heart, the hope of a child in her heart, I just felt like all this will go away, he'll be fine, you know, he'll get back to working, he'll be the best dad.
Let me cut you short. For how long had he been in this position, like after the accident? So was he like at the hospital, or he at some point he came home? So
initially he was, okay, because of being bedridden, he was in the hospital for I think 1.5 years, I would say. It was quite some time.
Wow.
I remember that accident happened when I was in Form 2. So he stayed there, I think, till Form 3 I think Form 3. By the time I was getting to Form 4, he had now moved home. He was actually recuperating and, you know, progressing quite well. So which was a big shock to us, because we thought now he would recover. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was crazy, I would say, for me, because as I said, I didn't expect him to die. Like, no child expects that.
Of course.
So I was hoping he would
be fine,
he would be fine, exactly. Because I remember going to I used to make a lot of hospital runs or visits.
Yeah.
And every time there would be an improvement.
Yeah.
And I would go to him, maybe read him stories and tell him. I used to fear he'd forget who I am. I don't know, for some reason. I think from seeing your able father working and doing everything to now he's quote unquote a vegetable. He can't do anything for himself. He can't go to the toilet. He needs assistance to do the most minute things in life. So I remember I kept asking him, do you know who I am? Do you remember who I am? Did he have memory? He did, but for me, I don't know how. I think it's the trauma. Yeah. It made me look at it like, okay, now he might even not remember who I am and things like that. So I kept telling him, Dad, do you know who I am? And he said, yes, I know who you are. I know you're in, now this is now the last year. I know you're in Form 4. I can't wait to send you a success card. I can't, like, he was also very, very hopeful. Do you have siblings? Yes, I do. I have one brother. We are extremely close. Older? Yeah, he is an older brother by, I think, 8 years. So we are extremely close, but his story and mine are very different, which I'll be able to share as well in terms of how that affected us as siblings. So you're just the two of you? Yes. Okay, all right. So how did he take the news also? Now, for me, he's the one who delivered the news to me. So let me set the scene. I was in Form 4. It was during the holiday, and I used to go to, what are they called, these holiday tuition things that were there back in the day. So I remember I was just going to my normal classes. It was around lunchtime. So I got my brother's call. Of course, I just speak like, hi, bro, kwaje? So I picked up, and my bro, but then he's the worst person to deliver news. The absolute worst. Most men. He was the worst. There was no, like, you know the way you prepare someone, there was no preamble, there was nothing. It was just like, I'm here. So he called and says, you know what, sis, me, I don't know how to tell you, but mom, haezi, dada meishia. Imagine, just like that. Who does that? I can imagine. I was like, you're like, haezi, ameishia wapi? I know, also, you're wondering. Exactly. So when he said Where were you? Now I was during the tuition period, but it was lunchtime. I used to go to tuition during the holiday. So morning to, I think, around 4 something. So it was during the lunch break. So he called, he said, Dada meishia. Let me tell you, my brain could not wrap its head, like, I could not understand what was going on. I can imagine. So he said, ameishia. And I was silent. He said, umenielewa? I said, yeah. And I hung up. Me, do you know, I went back to class like nothing had happened. My brain had not processed. Exactly. It had not processed exactly what had happened. So me, I went back to class. But every few seconds, I was like, was that a dream? It almost felt like it didn't happen. Yeah. Like it was just something. So I go through my whole day. Then now, immediately, my guilt just came in immediately, because I was like, you've been told your dad has died and you're going on about your day like nothing has happened. And I remember asking myself, like, what's happening to me? Because I was so shocked. I didn't know what to do. You became like still, you didn't know, you don't know how to react. Exactly. And I also realized in my life, whenever I'm in fight or flight mode, I always just freeze. Yeah. So I think that happened at that time as well. So I went about my day like nothing had happened. Then when I went home, so now when I got home, I think everyone was trying to process it. So I didn't have someone to now come, we talk, I tell you your dad is, because when I got home, mom was not around, no one was around. So
you just went home and no one was home.
Yeah, the housey was just in, but
Yeah.
I'm not even sure she knew exactly what was going on. So I remember I got into my bedroom, I took a shower. After the shower, now it clicked. My dad is dead. Like he is not coming back.
Wow.
Do you know, I locked myself in like a small closet. I wept.
I can imagine.
Cried.
I can imagine.
I was like, there's no way. There's no way, there's no way. There's no way this is real.
Wow, I totally can relate.
Well, maybe you can share your part.
Yeah, for me, my mom had been sick for quite some time. I remember when I was in standard 8, when I was in class 8, she got a stroke. She got a stroke and she was also paralyzed on one side. So this happened when, like, we were also so close with my mom, together with my sisters, and so it was like a shocker, because I remember it was so tough. We had to move and go to up country where my grandmother and my uncles were, so we had to move and stay there. And so my mom was paralyzed for almost a year.
Wow, what a coincidence.
I know. Yeah, like story. She was paralyzed for over a year and she couldn't do anything. So we just used to take care of her, like bathe her, feed her, everything, you know, like, and it is so hard to imagine how things happen, because my mom used to be a veterinary doctor. Oh, wow. Yeah, and she was very hardworking and she was such a beautiful woman. I used to look up to her in so many ways. So when this happened, she started recovering. After like now 1 year and a half, she started recovering. She got better. Okay, like not completely, but she could at least try and hold something, you know, like you can't, when you're paralyzed, and it was the right side, so she couldn't like hold something. So we started seeing changes. We used to do like some sort of therapy around home, like help her, massage her, things like that, and then she started getting better. So we started noticing she could hold a glass of something. Yeah, so she got better slowly by slowly. And I remember even she went back to work. At some point she went back to work, and she was a matron at, I think, Makini School. And then she got better. We moved back to Nairobi from up country. So now we just continued staying with her. But after some like 5 years, now I'm in high school, she started like not feeling like all perfect. She would complain of some things, or feeling some type of way, which like sickly, you know. So going back to the hospital, back and forth like that. So when she passed away, I remember I had just given birth, and my son was 6 months old. My mom passed away when my son was 6 months old. Like every time I remember that, it just breaks my heart, because I'm like, you know, the journeys that you would have wanted for your parent to be there with you, like being there for you, guiding you in parenthood, things like that. So it happened when my son was 6 months old. She had been sick for a very long time before this now. Like to a point, she used to have convulsions, like some sickness there, like it was just unexplainable. Because now every time we are just in and out of hospital taking her, maybe she started convulsing, she started not, just some funny reactions, you know. So at this point, there's a time I think it got worse, so she was admitted to hospital. We used to go visit her, and it killed me seeing her in that position, you know, like every time just having to go on that hospital bed, like just seeing her there. And for this particular time, I remember she had gone through so much. She used to take a lot of medicine. Like I used to feel like, God, this is too much for her. You know, even for her, she used to be, she was like numb, you know, like she became numb and she was like, these are too much medicine that I'm taking, you know. Yeah, but I remember one thing I always remember about her is how she was positive. Like even when she was very sick, and even on the bed, she still used to be the one encouraging me and telling me, Mommy, don't feel bad. Mommy, I'm going to be fine. Don't worry. Like, you know, I'm the one who's supposed to be giving her. I'm the one who's supposed to be giving her positive, like encouraging her. But now I'm the one, she's encouraging me, like making me feel strong, you know. Yeah, so.
I know it's not easy, because my dad also went through the same thing in terms of encouragement. I don't know, maybe there's a type of positivity that comes towards the end.
Yeah, I think parents just don't want to see, like, imagine a life without their children. So she kept encouraging me and telling me, don't worry, Mommy, I'll be fine. And then she used to be so prayerful. My mom used to pray so much. Like, I remember I used to console myself and tell myself, I know one thing is for sure, even if Mom one day dies, I know she'll go to heaven, you know, because she was just so prayerful. I learned to be prayerful from her, because we used to pray together, and it's something that is in me that I got to learn from her. I've always been a very prayerful person. So on this day that she passed away, I remember I had gone there, like the previous day, I had gone to visit her, just kawaida visit. And then when we reached there, we were told that the previous night she didn't sleep so well. She fell down from her bed. I don't know whether it was convulsion, as in just something. And I remember I was at a point where she had gone through so much, and just seeing her suffering like that, I just started thinking or wishing, God, I wish you can just take her away, so that she can just rest from all this pain. As in, just having to see her in this position is killing me. It's just too much, you know. Yeah, so I remember that day feeling that way. Now the day that I went to see her, just looking at her, and I'm like, God, she can't continue suffering like this. I wish you can just let her rest, you know. Which that thing kept eating me up, because I was like, so now the next day, someone calls me, a friend of mine called me. I was just going about my normal parenting. My baby is still at a stage where he's young and he's not sleeping, so I've probably not slept the previous night. Yeah, so I get a call around in the afternoon, and I'm told, a friend calls me and tells me, how are you? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. What's up? And then she tells me, I've just been told that Mom has passed away. And I was like, what? You're not serious? I just hung up. I just remember hanging up, and I just started crying like a mad person. Like, I can't even remember. It was just like I was just, and then she was like, but wait for me, I'm coming to see you, you know, like. Yeah, so it was just bad. And then after now getting this news, I started thinking, am I the one who wished her away? Like, and then, you know, what's worse is, like, I didn't even get to tell her goodbye. I didn't get to give her my last hug or something, like, just to have that connection, something to remember. So I was just like, I came to see you yesterday, and I didn't see any sign that you were. It was crazy. It was just crazy. I'm here. I was shaking. I'm here holding my baby. I'm shaking. I don't know how to I'm shaking, like I don't even know how to process this. My baby is still young. Yeah, so it was crazy. It was crazy getting that news. And for that call is the most dreadful call that you'll ever get. Like, having to be told you've lost your parent. Yeah, so that, for me, that is how that happened. How did Mom take it, and how are you able to grieve? How are you able to go through that period until you are able now to come to a place of processing the whole information and accepting until the time that you are able to bury your dad? How was that?
I think for me, I didn't process anything. My brain just said no. Because I remember after now, I've been told the news, I went to my bedroom, wept, whatnot. I don't know, was it a form of guilt or shame? I would cry only indoors. But the second I opened my bedroom door, that's it. Like, that's what me, I'm strong.
Wow.
So I would go out, people were planning. Of course, I was not involved in the planning. I'm the last born. That's the last thing they tell a child. It's more of like, you will come now to the funeral. So after receiving those news, I remember one aunt, and I really thank God for her. she asked me if I wanted to go and see my dad at the morgue.
Yeah.
Because normally there's that process, especially during the burial
Mm-hmm.
period. But before we get there, my mom had just, the previous year, she had lost, I think, my shosho, now her mom.
Mm-hmm.
So she was not
coming to
it's
terms.
her mom,
Yeah.
the husband.
I know.
She was like, I never even thought of blaming her, or like, because she didn't process for herself.
Yeah.
I remember she just would ask me, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then the me that I am, I would be like, I'm okay. Because my dad was also the same. I think I got the same thing from him.
So it was not acting like you
It
just
was-
used
yeah.
to be this outside you look acting. It wasn't
It
acting
was not
like,
acting. It was just
or
how
you
my
were
brain
just
was.
freezing, like you don't
Yeah.
know how to behave or
Exactly.
how to. Mhm.
And then for me, for a long time, I think even years in, it was not a reality. It was not true.
Yeah.
And maybe one small regret I can say I have was when my aunt asked me if I wanted to go to the morgue, I said no.
So you never got a chance to go and
Exactly.
see.
I never got that closure. I never got to see my dad gone.
Mhm.
So in my head, my brain would still tell me, imagine one
He'll
day I'll
come
walk up in
back.
Tao and I'll just see him. I
Wow.
remember the first 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years, I'd be in a busy place and be like, is that dad? Like, I'd see someone looking like him and immediately I'd get joy. I never believed that he died.
Mhm.
So we were told now it's time to bury him, clothes and everything, choose the colors, whatnot. I mean, I was not even involved. I was still not processing that
Yeah.
my dad is gone.
Mhm.
So the whole time, and that for me made my grief season or period take longer.
Mhm.
Because I did not have time to heal. I was not talking to anyone. I was not telling even a friend. Neither was I telling my brother. My brother was actually very, well, not mad, but he'd be like, he calls me Wama. He said, Mama, you're not saying anything. And he was like, do you want to go to therapy? No. He went to therapy. So he kept saying, do you guys want to go to therapy? And we kept saying no. So for me, my journey all through has been sort of in a denial mode. I
Yeah.
stayed in denial for quite some time. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. I remember for me, when we were starting to plan about the burial, about how everything is going to be done, it was hard. But I remember we went to the morgue, and I remember I went to view his body in the casket. You know how they place the body there, and for people start coming to view. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that. I wasn't sure if I was ready to do that, but I went. I went regardless. I went. And something that has always stuck, I always keep saying, when it was my turn to view her, I can almost guarantee, like, I saw her smiling at me. She winked and smiled at me. I don't know if that is, I don't know if it was hallucination, but I don't know why I always remember, like, she smiled, and like, I saw a reaction. I can bet, like, I saw a reaction. So I think that kept me going. It made me think maybe it was a way of her telling me that don't worry, I'll be fine, or something.
Yeah,
I don't know if
definitely.
I don't know if it's a thing that we console ourselves, but I can almost guarantee you that she did something. She did something when I viewed her. And that is, I think, what even broke me, like what made me break kabisa. Because I remember I cried after that. I went, I was like I was feeling like my world had just been shattered. I was like, how am I going to live this life without my mom? It was hard. It was hard. And I remember even after we planned and then we went to bury her, it was crazy because I still have a 6 months old. I wasn't in a good relationship. So you can imagine all these things I'm having to deal with. And I remember my mom used to be like this person who I would go to and talk about anything and everything. I used to go to her and tell her, Mom, this is what is happening in my relationship, or Mom, this is what I need your advice on something. And I remember for me, my mom used to be on the call list, like every day, call log, every day. I just used to have her there. Like, I know I would call her every day and just check up on her and just hear her laugh, you know. But it was, now to imagine that this person is not there, it was just crazy. So we planned the burial, and we went and buried her. And I remember that day, it was so tough. It was just, I think that is the darkest day of anyone's life, like having to go through that and seeing. At some point I felt like I could just go and throw myself inside the what is it called, the coffin, like as in just go the graveyard, as in just go there. It was crazy. My son is busy crying that day. I don't know, my son was just uncomfortable the whole day. He kept crying and crying. He was just restless. It was just a terrible day. It was just a terrible day. I don't like to remember it. And it was like a dream. It felt like a dream. I used to just imagine, Mom, you can't be gone. I would just imagine I would get a call. I used to think, oh, Mom, please call me. I'm waiting for your call today. Something like, it's just hard to process. And I think especially the time after, now you start burying someone, like when the coffin is going down, that's when you start realizing, wow, this is really happening. Is this really happening? Because I'm like, why?
And then, like during that week before the funeral, you have so many people around your home. Then suddenly there's no one.
And then there's no one. And then there's no one.
It's just you.
It's just you and your reality. Now you're just there, you don't know how. And then also I think you don't want people to keep telling you sorry. You don't want, as in, the more people are being pitiful or showing you like you feel emotional, you feel like you don't want to be in that place. It just used to break my heart. Like I never wanted to be, I didn't want people coming and telling me, oh, don't cry, Amma, we are here for you. I didn't want that kind of thing. I think why it not because of my baby, and I think also my baby played a big part, because if it were not for him, I don't know what I would have done, because I think I would have probably sunk into depression, because I didn't know how. But I have a small child here who's depending on me, so I can't make any decisions which are going to affect him. I have to be strong for him. He's still breastfeeding. He's 6 months old. He's just started weaning. I had just started weaning him. So I have to also to be mindful of my emotions, because when you're in a place where you can't control your emotions, and then sometimes it affects even the flow of milk. So when the milk supply is not there, the baby is not feeding well. You understand? So sometimes I feel like my baby played a big part in me, making me move on. I wouldn't say fast, but like get through. I had something to hold on, because I was like, I'm in a relationship that doesn't feel so right. Mom is gone. What am I going to do? Something like that. So it was just crazy. I remember. It was crazy. So tell me, after you buried your dad, did you grieve? Like, did you get through that process of feeling like, did you finally come to terms with this with his loss, or was it still you being in this position where you're still trying to act like you're okay, but deep down you're not?
I think for me, I did, but much later, precisely 8 years in. After 8 years, because I remember it's 2 years ago. And what made me get to that point was God. Because that whole time I had been like an Israelite, telling God, I deserve an earthly father. I don't care about you being my dad. You're spiritual, I can't see you. I just want my dad, someone I can call. And no one talks enough about the transition of getting to lose a parent or anyone that you loved, to starting to forget their laugh,
I know,
their voice, their faces. Let me tell you, without pictures, there are things that start disappearing. And then you get to that point of guilt of like, how dare I forget this person?
My mom. How can I forget?
Exactly. You start asking yourself, can I remember his laughter? But now you start remembering how their faces looked when they laughed. But that voice of how they used to laugh starts, kind of disappearing. So for me, during the grieving season, I remember after that, as I said, it was in Form 4, I went back to school. I didn't tell anyone. I literally told my high school friends, last year during our reunion.
Wow, much later after you finished school.
10 years in, I was just, that's the time I told them. And I remember just praying to God because it was holiday. I hope they don't announce this thing anywhere in school. I hope no one knows, because I also, as you said, I didn't want that, like, people just doing things because of,
pity, because of pity for you.
So I didn't want that. But I would have very many episodes of breakdowns. And that's why I would say, for me, if you can, try and process it as early as you can. 2, please try and see, like, your loved one dead. I think it gives you a closure. Because me, I didn't get that. So I remember I would pretend, you know, I'm a Form 4, you can go to whichever. So I used to do, I had chosen the option of doing computer. So I remember when that feeling would come, I'd pretend I'm going to the computer room to read or do something with the machine, but I was going to cry.
Wow.
So one day, 2 of my friends, first of all, this is now in school now.
In school, still in
we've buried my dad. Yeah, still in high school. We've buried my dad. Now I'm now in the first fresh year of processing everything. One of my friend finds me crying in comp lab, and she asks, what's wrong? What's going on? I told her, you know me, I'm just missing home. I wish I was home.
Wow.
And she was like, it's okay, but no, you're in Form 4, you're crying because you're not home. I mean, you've had 4 years.
Yeah.
But I think she smelled something. She smelled a rat, obviously. Then the second time it happened the same. She found me crying and she was like, what is happening? So I remember at that time I told her, I want to tell you something, but please do not tell anyone. Anyone, like, go to the grave with this. I don't know why I felt like it was a secret or something to be hidden. I don't know why.
Because it's like you are hiding
Exactly.
it.
I don't know why. So I don't know why, but then maybe I need therapy. I don't know why. I just felt like I shouldn't tell anyone. One should know this is my thing. But also I think I was very obsessed with a picture perfect family. So I felt like, okay, now it's no longer perfect. And my dad was, I would say, my everything. I mean, when I say everything, my dad would visit me in high school on random days. It was not visiting day, it is not clinic day, and just take me out for lunch. He would come for me. He would send pictures. You know, when your boyfriends are writing you like letters, me, I would get letters from my dad. He was that intentional. And anytime we'd take a picture during visiting, he'd go and print it out. You know, that time there was the smartphones were not that clear. He would go and print it out and write something behind.
You've just reminded me. That reminds me. I still have some letters that my mom used to write me when I was in school. And I also remember, those are the things that make you remember. And I remember she used to have a very nice handwriting. And I remember sometimes, you know how when if you have someone who lives nearby, like a neighbor who you are in school with, and maybe they've gone home because of school fees. So I have this friend who we were like neighbors. So sometimes when she would go home, she would bring me a letter from my mom, and then like I remember one specific letter my mom wrote to me when I was in school, and she was like, "Hi, mommy, I hope you're fine. I've made some mandazis for you. I've given your friend corazon. She can bring for you, and I hope you're fine." Like just making some funny jokes there. And then she finishes and saying, "You're loving, mom." And I was like, I still have I have some of those letters. I have like 2. I always have them in my wallet. You know, when you remember some of those things, you're like, wow. Wow.
Bless them for being intentional while they still had the chance.
So how did mom take it? Like you guys were still you guys used to be like together with mom
and my bro.
Was it so hard for her to how was it for her?
I think I would say it was extremely hard, having have lost her mom previously, and then now her husband. I don't my brain, by the way, may actually say, I think trauma for me deletes some things in my life, because I don't remember going to my mama seeing her crying, but I remember she fell into deep depression.
Wow.
My mom is very hardworking. She's always jovial. She's just, those just, like, I don't know, like an epitome of a classical African mom.
Wow.
In everyone's business, in a nice way. She's just really pure. But I remember that time she got very, very depressed. Depressed to the point she couldn't work. And now, that's another thing. let me tell you, when you lose a parent, especially one who is a breadwinner, things get really tough.
Yes.
Because me, when I was growing up, I was not born in a rich Uhuru kind of family, but life was okay.
Yeah.
There are things I was not aware of.
Yeah.
I was not aware of people sleeping without food, things like that. But when my dad died, I experienced, you know, a different trajectory. I went to the other side of life, because now my mom is depressed. She can't work as she used to.
Was your brother working?
No, he was, I think, in uni at that time. Yeah, no, he had just finished uni. So Pierre, he was in that season of looking for a job and everything, and he was also mourning as well. So my mom got very, very depressed. She wouldn't work. The way she was processing things, the way she was relating to us, because my mom used to be very, very strict. But all of a sudden, she was not. She didn't care what I did. So now I've already transitioned from high school. I've gone to uni. So you know, you kind of expect your mom to be like, you know, you need to be home at this time, or things like that, or what are you doing right now, and things like that. She was not like that. She completely forgot that she had a role to play, and I don't blame her. She was actually very strong to have lost, you know, she actually lost her mom, the husband, and the next year she lost her dad. It was, tragedies were happening. It was a very tough time for her. So I would say she took time to process it. My bro actually is the only person who went to therapy, and I think for him it helped him. And also during the funeral, something just to take you back, I didn't cry again. I wept, but I didn't cry.
Like,
you know, the way you'd expect
you
a
have
child to cry. I didn't cry like that. But my bro really wept. I remember him being lifted by his friends.
Wow.
He cried, but you know, for him, he kept saying that he felt guilty because he didn't give dad enough time when he was alive.
Oh, like they didn't bond so much, like with you.
Exactly. So he felt that gap. For me, I didn't feel, I think I grieved more what we will not be able to do in future. Because while he was still alive, we really spent a lot of time together. And we were best. My dad was easy. My mom was quite strict. So of course, who likes strict mom? I didn't enjoy that part of, you know, being parented. But because of him being very fluid in terms of, you know, his way of parenting was very free. I really enjoyed spending time with him. So what, for your case, what happened? In terms of now you've buried, now you're grieving, how are your siblings grieving?
Well, for me, actually, I remember my sister, she wasn't around. She had gone to these jobs of UAE, like I think it was in they're called Doha, I think Doha or somewhere. So I remember when she went, for her, she had just gone and her contract was for 2 years, and I think by the time this happened, she couldn't come back. She couldn't, I think they couldn't allow her to come for the burial. So for her, she didn't like experience it firsthand as I did, and I don't know how that has been for her, honestly, because at some point we lost touch. Like, she's those people who always just goes and live their lives, you know. So but I remember when I told her, of course she felt bad, and we never like got to, I never got like to see her reactions, but for me it was still very fresh every time remembering, and it was still so sad. And for example, what I can say, the things that I remember that really hurt me most that time is, like, you know, that period when now someone has passed and now people are distributing her things, like just seeing her things being given out, like people are there sharing her clothes. People are like, for my mom, she wasn't with my dad. They had separated for a long time when I was young. So I grew up with in a blended family. I used to stay with my mom, and sometimes I used to go stay with my dad. So I remember now this person who was married to my mom, their family. Now he's the one who used to distribute things to their family, giving out my mom's things, you know, things like that. And it crushed me. Like, I'm like, how can you be doing this? We've not even moved on. It's like you are just waiting. Like, and I remember in that moment feeling like this person was just waiting for my mom to pass, you know, as in, why are you moving on so fast? Like, you're not even giving me, like, you should just. And I think I wanted those things to have memories of her. I still have some of her clothes which I've held on to them. Yeah, so I remember that for me was very painful. And also remembering how we used to pray together with my mom. As I've said earlier, my mom was so prayerful. Like, I learned a lot from her about being prayerful. I remember even as a kid, she taught me so much about loving God and growing. That's how I was able to grow up loving God. I remember even at some point I used to pray for her. She would tell me she has a headache, and I would tell her, let me pray for you and you're going to be fine. And I would just lay my hands on her and pray. And I think I cultivated that thing so much, and it became like a part of me. And that is also something that I remember about her that makes me feel like a big part of me, a big part is missing. Yeah, so it was hard. It was still hard. And then also when you feel like you're alone, like friends are not there.
Exactly.
You know, also like you feel like some of my friends, they used to go, you know, okay, it's okay for people. Of course, people have to move on. And that's the sad bit about death. Like, even after someone dies, like, people move on. You know, that's how you see others are able to move on quickly with their lives. So for me, I remember feeling so bad how some of my friends, their lives were just going on normal. I'm like, they're still partying. I'm like, wow, God, why? Like, I'm in this position. I'm here feeling stuck. I'm here feeling, I'm grieving. I'm sad. And some of my friends, their lives are still going on. They are happy. They are okay. You know, you feel like, God, what kind of life is this?
I remember even me, I stopped and said, how dare this world continue without my dad living in it? You feel very, very entitled and feel like everyone should be feeling exactly
what you're feeling. You start blaming other people for that they are happy and you're feeling sad. Like, it's like you want everyone to feel this this pain that you're feeling, this pain that you can't even explain. You understand? Yeah. So I remember for me it was really crazy. And I remember it's at this point where I was able to do sifting and like do away with some of my friends who I thought were my friends, and I was able to, and then you see, remember, I still have a small child, so it's like most of the time I'm spending time with this child. And I think that's the point I just decided, and you know what, I think this is my best friend, this is my true friend, let me just care for him, you know. And that, so I got to a point where I stopped feeling bad about seeing friends moving on with their lives. I would say I was able to come out of that phase of blaming people and expecting them to feel what I'm feeling, because of course no one will ever feel what you feel. This journey is different, and it's different for different people. How I feel is not probably how you feel, or how I process it is not how you will process it. So that for me, that is how I was able to be able to do away with some of my friends and focus now on my child and my relationship. That is how I went through that period. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. How did it impact your external family? Because for my case, for example, we grew up very close to my dad's side more than my mom's side. I mean, I think traditionally, especially in a Kikuyu setup, the woman goes to the husband's family. So I remember we grew up very tight with my dad's side. My dad had also lost his parents very, very young, because I never met any of my grandparents from my dad's side. So I remember always, you know, knowing that we have family, like we have real ground. But when my dad died, hey...
Tell me about it.
Let me tell you. Kipetero Kiesu. Do you know these people disappeared?
I know.
And paka leo, I have never understood why they abandoned us. I would say that. Maybe I need to hear the side of the story, but for me, when you were talking about cutting off friends and things like that, I also experienced that, but now for me was in terms of family. Because I was now heading to university. My mom is not working. She's not in any capacity to work. They've hoarded all my dad's property. By then, my dad didn't have a will, so maybe that was on him. But because he didn't have a will and they were investing as a family, because you know, when you lose your parents very young, you kind of cultivate a special kind of bond as siblings. So they were investing together and all that. So they had a lot of information regarding my dad's estates and property and all that. But they decided they're not going to give my mom or us anything. And we were just like left. I felt like we were just abandoned. I was like, Dad, did you know your people were like this?
Even his brothers?
All of them.
Wow.
They completely decided to take a different route. So for me, again, that was another thing I would say when it comes to grieving. You kind of start seeing people for who they are. Exactly.
That's true.
Because even if maybe something happened that was not very clear, but it has been 10 years. I didn't see anyone going above and beyond, trying to reach out to be like, hey, Wama, this is what happened. And it is not as maybe you perceived it in your head. So I just wanted to know, like, did anything like that happen for you in terms of, you know, family, especially extended family?
For me, I remember, and I think it's my mom. I would say it's my mom who used to make us have that bond, even with the aunties, the uncles. Like, you remember those Oshago moments where people go December holidays, you go there as a family. But now, after my mom passed, I remember, I can't even tell you the last time I had some of those relatives, the uncles, the aunties, like people reaching out to ask how you are. Like some of them even like who are like her elder brothers, like some of them never even checked up on us or to check how we are doing. Like they just went quiet, and I remember feeling, wow, it's like this death has shown me the real version of people, you know, because now it's like they don't want even to help us, they don't want even to see how we are doing. So I remember, for me, after mom passed away, I remember we've never been like so close with my relatives, like my uncles, my cousins. I would tell you there are some cousins that we don't even talk, and not like there's any bad thing that we did, bad blood or anything, but you know that that period of people, everyone going about their own lives, and that's also another thing that makes you feel bad. Like how relatives they are going on with their lives, like they don't care how you're processing this, how you're processing the death of your mom. Like everyone just continued with their life. And for me, it was just okay, because, well, for me, I'd say after that, I've always also been close to people on my dad's side mostly. So it wasn't, I was like, to a point, like, I didn't care so much, because now, to be honest, this is the reality. It's just you and your kid, as in these other people are not showing you if they are there. You understand? So for me, it wasn't, I didn't like care much about what, if they were there for us or not. Because to be honest, they were not. They were not. They decided to go quiet. They went silent, and and even to take you back, even before, I remember when I told you that she had been paralyzed for 1 year. I remember like even seeing the true colors of some of these relatives, because at this point some were mistreating her, because now, you know, she's in bed, she can't work. She can't give them anything. And you know, my mom used to be like this person who brings joy in the family. She would go every other weekend home to visit their family, like do shopping and everything. But now when she was paralyzed, it's like she became a burden. Most of them started seeing her as a burden. They were not even helping her. I remember even at some point my mom even lacking something as little as porridge, like porridge flour, you know, like even for 20 bob. And you know, like when you're in up country, that is something, because they have this places where you can get something like flour for as little as for cheap amount. But now I remember, like even at some point they couldn't even give her like something as little as porridge flour. It's like she became a burden to them, and they abandoned her. So it was just us and our mom. I remember even they used to some of them used to neglect her. I remember one day, because I had now to go to day school when this time when she was paralyzed, and I remember one day coming from school and finding her on the floor. Wow. On the floor, like, and there are people in the house. You can imagine, like, she had been there the whole day. She fell and then she was just left there. Yeah, she fell. Wow. She fell and then she was just left there the whole day. As in, like, I just came, found her there down on the floor. It was cold. Like, she had peed on herself, you know, like, because she was in a place where she couldn't do anything for herself. So it was just, I was just left there. And I remember coming, and when I found her there, I just cried, lifted her up to the bed, cleaned her, bathed her, like, so yeah. So some of these people started showing her these signs, like when she became sick. So and that's when I knew, wow, even these relatives are not, like, you know, like, well, as loyal, and they are not even there. They're not supporting her, because now it's all of a sudden you become like a burden, you know. So it wasn't
sorry, did that make you feel in life that there's more to family than just blood?
Of course there is. And sometimes I came to learn that sometimes family is not the people who you are born with. Yes. Sometimes family is not the people who are, like, you're related to, like your uncles, your cousins, your, you know. Sometimes family is a stranger or friends who are there for you, who come and help you. Sometimes family is these people who come and are concerned about your well-being and keep asking how you're doing, you know. So were you able to grieve? Like, would you say that you are able to overcome that, like the losing your dad? Have you, like, up to now, would you say that you've healed?
No, I don't. Where I am, this is 10 years in, but they have not done enough work. But I know, when, as I said, 2 years ago, at my 8th year mark, that's when I started healing. So I wouldn't say it's a journey that where you would get to a state of completion and say, now I've healed, I don't care if this person died or not. No, but there's a peace that comes with knowing that God has your back. And for me, my healing came when I met God. And I remember at that time, my pastor used to tell me, allow God to be your father. And I hated that statement for long. Like, I felt like, Yani, you want to replace my, you know, this is God we're talking about. But I still had that battle of, like, God cannot replace my dad. Almost as if my dad was bigger than God. And he is not. But I was in that state because my dad meant so much to me. So my pastor kept telling me, allow God to be your father, let God in. And it was so hard until one day I remember telling God, now my dad is not coming back, by the way. And on this earth, me, I need a dad. Me, I need someone who can understand me. I need a dad who can connect, because my dad, by the way, was a manager for a long time. So he had good networks. So I remember when I would go through different seasons of life, not having a job or struggling to make ends meet, I'd be like, if dad was alive, if dad was, I know, if dad. I remember even, as I said, when you know that period when the smile is disappearing and all that, the day that you decide to call their number and someone else has already been assigned that number.
Tell me about that.
It is a different kind of feeling. It's like now confirmation. You know, life like kind of confirms things slowly by slowly. I remember calling my dad's number and was like, Yani Safaricom just gave out this number. I was like, hey, kwani hawana heshima hata.
I also never knew that when like when you lose someone, like when a number goes off for some time, like it's given out. Because I remember I used to look at my phone I told you she used to be on my call log like every day. So every day I kept wishing and thinking, I know mom will call me, I know she'll call me. Then also one day I decided, you know, I think it's just something, I just decided, let me call. I still have this number, let me call her. I call and I'm told, I don't know, someone just picked up and it's a different number, and I was like, oh wow, reality just starts checking in and you're like, you know.
And mostly at that time you realize, maybe in your head you're like, I mean, I've healed. Then you try something like that, then you're back to square one.
If I'm being honest, you don't heal
You
from this
never.
thing. For me, I've never healed. I've never healed. There are moments I'll be walking, there are moments I'll be in the car, or there are moments I'll look at something, or I'll just be just doing whatever, and then a memory of her will come, and then I'll just start crying. You know, like the tears that you can't even control.
Yeah.
I'll just start shedding tears. I'll be like, wow, why? And then I keep asking myself, will this pain ever end? You know, like it's like this. It's like every time I feel it so fresh. It's like every time you feel it like it just happened the other day. You know,
and
you
especially
feel pain.
when you see your friends or your relatives having that parent that you don't have. Because me, I remember seeing my friends hugging their dads, or going to visit someone and they are introducing you to, this is my dad.
Yeah.
I remember another different thing that made me be like, whoa, he's really dead. Well, of course, I'm dating, in a relationship, and my boyfriend introduced his dad, and he was like, you know, you can call my dad your dad. I was like, I know it comes from a good place, but I was still
don't
like,
want to hear it.
that's not my father.
I know, and that's how I wanted us to talk about how the things what are the triggers that you've had to go through, or things that make you miss your dad the most. Like what things happen to you that make you miss your dad? Like, for example, for me, it's some triggers are like when you see someone with their parent, like with their real, like for me, when I see someone with their real mom and how they bond, and I'm just left there thinking, God, I wish to be honest, I wish I had a bond with my mom, like at the age that I am in. I wish my mom was alive to be able to see the kind of person I've become, or see my children how they've become, and like I just wish she was there to see the kind of how I've turned out to be, you know, not having to imagine if she were here she would be happy, or if she were here she'd tell me this. So for me, some of those things, like seeing people with their moms, as in especially like when you see them bonding, it's always a trigger to me. Sometimes it makes me feel so bad. I just feel like I shouldn't have lost my mom. And then sometimes you want to ask God, and then also you remember you cannot question God's ways, you know, because the Bible says God's ways are not our ways. How he thinks is not like how we think, you know. His ways are higher than us. So you just go back in that place and you just pray. And I remember also I've had even moments where I've had to, like, every time I dream about her and I see her so fresh, even in the dream, and I'm like, why am I seeing her every time? Like, I wake up and feeling like the dream was so real. Every time I'm like, I saw her and she said this, and you feel like you're hallucinating or like you're losing it, you know. Like some of those things, they're like always a trigger. So what triggers you?
For me, I would say obviously the same thing in terms of anyone relating with their dad, especially if their bond looks like the way yours looked like. So my dad was very affectionate, so things like hugs trigger me. Or my dad used to take me out for drives, just random drives, and I remember we had a whole album for Whitney Houston, so I knew almost all her songs. So anytime her songs come up, they'll trigger me. Anytime of dad-daughter bond, and especially now that I am older, when I see people doing TikToks with dads, I'm just like, I know my dad would have been a TikTok dad, because he loved life like that. So anything along those lines, and especially now that, you know, I'm getting into the season of maybe marriage and all that, I always ask myself how I'll go through my wedding, because I'll be like, you know, the one person who should be here exactly is not here. It's a journey.
I know. What do you remember most about your dad, like growing up? As in, what are the most important things that you remember, or life lessons that you remember that your dad taught you?
One, I would say I remember most his laughter and his smile. He had a beautiful smile. And he had those pink, what are these called?
Gums.
Gums. He had pink gums and perfect teeth. Sometimes when my friends tell me, oh, your teeth are nice, I'm just like, oh, that's my dad.
Got it from your dad.
Yeah, he had really nice teeth. So a lot of the times when I close my eyes, that's what I see. I see his face and I see him smiling. But one of the biggest lessons that he taught me is that do the right thing at the right time. That was his life's mantra. I remember growing up, we were not allowed to wake up earlier than 10 a.m. during the holidays. He said, when it's time for holiday, do holiday things. When it's time for school, do school things. Because when it's time for school, you better not be late.
Yeah.
But during holiday, do everything that you can. And he had this thing of life, balancing life. Enjoy life. Just don't be in the habit of just working and not enjoying life. To the point that I remember my dad used to go when he'd be buying shoes, maybe Bata or wherever. You know how when you buy shoes like at 3 p.m. So utafungiwa the new shoes and you'll wear them tomorrow. Then
you wear them.
Pack the old ones. He says, my life is now. And I remember he used to live with that mentality. And anytime he would go out, he would always carry us. There are so many times during school nights, I slept in the car. At 2 a.m. I'm sleeping. Probably it was irresponsible of him. But for me, I took that he loved us enough that even if he wanted to have fun, he would rather just have us with him.
Wow, that's so nice. For me, I remember, like I said, my mom was a God lover. Like, my mom really loved God so much. And so one thing that has always stuck is how she used to be a staunch Catholic, and I remember for her, so every time I hear these Catholic songs, like easy, like uninyunyizie maji, like those kind of things, I always remember, I always miss her, because in the house, those are just the only songs that would play in the house from morning to evening. Every time you come to that house, it would be just cassettes of those choirs. And she also used to be in a choir. So every time I just hear those Catholic songs, they just remind me of her. And also what I remember that she taught me was to be prayerful. I can't emphasize enough of how this thing has helped me even now growing up, like being prayerful. I don't think there's much I can do if I wasn't a prayerful person. Like prayers have helped me through my most darkest moments. Prayers have helped me even grow. They've helped me to heal and even to like be able to forgive people who I thought I wouldn't forgive after my mom died. So she taught me to always be prayerful. And especially when you have a child, when now you are a parent, it's when now you reflect on the times that the things that your mom used to tell you, the teachings that she taught you. As a mom now, every time your child, because you have a child there, they'll ask for something and you'll be like, wow, my mom used to do this. And then you keep telling yourself you want to give the best to your children, just like the same thing how your mom gave you. So like for me, I always want to just give my children the best, instill in them values like my mom was able to instill in them. And for me, the most valuable thing I would want for my children to learn is that prayerful aspect also. I would want my children to still take up that thing and grow up loving God and grow up respecting God, and to be prayerful people, because I don't think there's anything we can do without prayer. So that is one thing I've always learned.
That's so beautiful.
I know.
Indeed, you are very prayerful. For me, my dad was on the other side of life. Raha, he was also Catholic, but he was not very, I wouldn't say he was a staunch Catholic. He was a Catholic goer. Because I remember I would see my dad in church maybe on 25th. Maybe tu wako like, hey, dhambi za hii mwaka. Or something. But he would always take us to church. He would drop us to church and pick us up. So I didn't grow up learning any aspect of Christianity from my dad. But thank God my mom made up for what my dad didn't do. But, I think every story has a silver lining. And for me, my dad, by the time he was passing on, he had given his life to Christ. So I really thank God for that, because it ended up being beautiful at the end of the day. Not to say that you do your own thing, have fun and, do whatever. Not many people actually get a chance to give their life to God. But he did. And I can't wait to see him. Oh, wow. That's beautiful. So do you think someone ever heals from this phase? Do you think you ever come to a point of now saying, I'm okay, I've dealt with this grief, now I'm fine, I'm perfect, nothing will trigger me? Do you think there's a time we ever get to that point? Because for me, I don't think you ever get to that point. It's like every time it's fresh, but it's how you
handle,
Process
how
it.
you process and how you take things and how you process the loss of the person that you've lost. What do you think?
So I also don't think it will ever get to that level of perfection. However, I think it does get better.
Yeah.
There are times I used to ask myself, will I ever smile again? Will I ever find a reason to enjoy life? Will I ever find anything beautiful on this earth without my dad? But as time went by, there are times you would even be oblivious of the fact that they died.
Yes.
And then that guilt again, it's almost like you're going through the process again. You'd always be like, I forgot my dad died. Then I'd be like, hey, I need to remember. But you see, that's all that trauma holding you back. These people, hopefully they lived a life that they loved. And us being here, I can say, we must have been joy to them. There are many people who don't even get to the point of seeing their children. Even, fostering things like prayer in their life. So you don't completely heal. It's a process, because even us, we've not gotten at it to the tail end of it. But it gets better. It gets better. Especially, I think, because for us or for me, I didn't do therapy. So I've not even put in time. But for me, my therapy right now, I would say God has really done the heavy lifting for me.
For me too, I never went through therapy. It's just, the kawaida healing too. You just heal, you just go through a day at a time. And I'd say that time always is the best healer. Like time, every time you give yourself the grace to go through that period and think about, I think you just have to come to a point of, instead of just thinking about this loss that you've made, you just have to come to a place where you now start appreciating, remember the good moments that you shared, the memories that you made, and then maybe when you think about them like that, you're able to not hold bitterness or blame God or blame other people. You just come to a place of acceptance. You accept the situation and just find ways of how to deal with it. But I'd say therapy really does help. If you're able to go see a therapist, it really does help, because some of these things, they make you go to a place of trauma. You become so traumatized, and you find that you take these traumas to your other family, like in relationships, or you just find that you're not healed. You keep blaming, you keep being an absent parent to your children because you're still traumatized about some of the things you went through after losing someone you love. So for me, I'd say time really does heal. Time really does heal. And it really helps to just come to a place of accepting and remembering, thinking about those memories that you made with the person that you lost. So I thought we would do a letter to our parents, like something you'd want to tell them, like write a letter to them. And you wrote yours. I was able to, I wrote mine here because
before we get to that, what would you tell someone who is going through that today? Like, they've gotten that call, mom is no more or dad is no more. What are some of the encouraging things you'd tell them? I know it's not going to be easy. The journey is not going to be easy. What would you tell that person?
There's no one is ever ready for that moment. No one is ever ready for that moment. But I'd say once that has happened and you get that call, I don't know what to say. To be honest, it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. I can tell you to do this, and then it would be different. I think how someone relays the message to you, or how, depending on the kind of person you are. There are strong people who would just process it, but we are different. How I will react is not how someone else will react. But I don't know. I honestly don't have an answer to that. I don't know. I don't know what I'd tell. It's just good to be yourself. And you see especially what we've said about, it's good to take in that moment. That trying to avoid that moment or trying to block that reality is what comes to eat you up later. So I'd say just be in that moment, and until you are able to accept it, just be in that moment. I think that's all I'd say.
I would say the same thing for me, because I didn't take time to process. I kind of always put it at the back. I'd be like, I'll do this when I'm alone. Because I remember most of the times when I used to cry or be myself or grieve when I was alone. Like in the middle of the night, when I'm so sure everyone is asleep. So I would say, one, cry your heart out. Please do it.
Crying
if you
helps.
can't do just cry as much as you can. You're in that season.
Yes.
Embrace that emotion.
Yes.
Don't hide it. It will take you longer than it
True.
actually should.
Yeah.
Also, secondly, accept help. Sometimes
Yes.
it's very hard to accept
Oh,
help.
yeah.
Someone is trying to talk to you, like,
And
you
you're
don't
like,
understand
yeah,
me. You don't
you're not
understand
in
that.
my
Yeah,
position.
exactly. So accept help.
Mhm.
Then try and find someone to talk to. If you
talk
can't
to.
talk to, someone, write it down.
Write it
try
down,
And, try and
journaling.
write down letters
Yeah.
to them
Yes.
and be like, I'm mad at you because
Yeah,
you decided
you-
to
to
die.
leave
Because I
me.
remember I also went through that phase
Yes.
of being like, how dare you give up on life? Like, who are you leaving me with?
Me too. I
Yeah.
remember I used to journal. At some point, I started writing, like, because I'd feel like the pain is too much.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes you cry, you've cried, your eyes are swollen. But I remember coming to a point of always just releasing it on paper.
Yeah.
But now I'd just write and then tear the paper
paper.
away, or just at some point burn them.
Yeah.
But it helped. And even cry, a lot of crying. I still cry to this day.
I know.
Sometimes I'll miss my mom so much and I'll cry, especially on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Or as in,
Yeah,
they are just triggers. So which I don't think you'll ever come to a place of saying you've moved on, ama you'll never remember this person ever again. Yeah. And then also looking at the photos, like remembering the moments that you had. Yeah, it helps. Yeah.
Even honoring them. Like, if you can, you teach your kids about this.
Yes.
They had a grandparent, they did this, they loved this,
Yeah.
they're still part of our lineage and all that. But I would say really just cry, go through the process.
True.
Don't skip any part.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. And also expect people to say deuces and leave.
Oh yeah.
Just be sure there are some people who will
Of
just
course. Even family.
Exactly, especially that.
Yeah.
But also know, most importantly, that God is there, and
Yeah.
He's the. There's
the father to
something
the
that we are
fatherless.
exactly. There's something I told in church a lot of the time, that God is our Father.
Yeah.
And most of the time we don't relate to Him like
As a
that. We
father.
usually feel like,
Yeah.
after my dad, then He can be the
Yeah,
dad.
yeah.
But if you make Him a priority, like you give Him the rightful position of a father in your life,
He will father you.
Exactly.
He will
He'll
father
father
you.
you.
Yeah.
He'll heal you in ways you didn't think someone who is spiritual
Yeah.
can heal you. Because you don't touch God and tell Him,
Yeah.
by the way, because
I need
sometimes when I was looking for jobs, I used to be like, guy, yani kuna mzee anapiga tu babake anamwambia kuna hii imekwama, si
Imagine.
jua vile
And
utafanya.
their dad will sort them.
So me, I used to be very angry at that, but I tried that with God. When I actually gave Him the position, I tell God, I have this job, or I
And
want
I
to
need
quit
it.
because of 1, 2, 3 reasons. I'm not being naughty. Help me. And
Help
let
me.
me tell you,
He will come
He
through.
always comes through.
God does always come through. Yeah, so let's read these letters that we wrote to our parents,
Dearly
our
departed.
Yes, and tell them. So do you want to start, or I can start?
No, you can start.
Okay, so this is what I wrote. Dear Mom, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years since you left us. Not a day goes by without thinking of you and feeling the void your absence has left in my life. There are so many things I wish I could tell you, so many moments I wish we could share together. I miss your comforting presence, your warm hugs, and your wise advice. You are not just my mother, but also my confidant, my biggest supporter, and my rock. Your love and guidance shaped me into the person I am today, and for that I will forever be grateful. There are times when life feels overwhelming, and I long for your comforting words and reassuring smile. I find solace in memories of our time together, reminiscing about the laughter we shared and the lessons you taught me. Your strength, resilience, and unwavering love continues to inspire me every day. I want you to know that I carry you in my heart always, and your memory will never fade. I strive to live a life that would make you proud, honoring the values and principles you instilled in me. Though you may no longer be physically present, your spirit lives on in the kindness I show to others, the love I give to my family, and the dreams I pursue with determination. I cherish the moments we had together and hold on to them dearly. Until we meet again, know that you're deeply loved and profoundly missed with all my love.
So sorry.
Yeah, you can go ahead with yours.
You're so strong.
I'm sorry.
Me, I didn't write it down, but maybe I can say it from my heart.
Sure.
I don't even know where to start. But I'll say this, if he had the ability to listen, I would say, hi, Dad.
Sorry.
I promised myself I won't cry. It's not been easy without you.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish you were around. There are so many things that I've gone through that I feel only you could have understood. I can't wait to see you again. I know it might sound like a dream, but because I know you got born again and I'm also born again, I know God will give us a chance to at least say hi to each other, or kind of catch you up with what happened when you were not around. I can't wait to tell my children, your grandchildren, of how awesome you are, and how perfect you are of a father. I met a man. I would have hoped he'd have asked you for permission to marry me, but I know he's the right one, or at least I hope he is. I see a lot of similarity between you and him, especially in how he takes care of me, and every time he smiles, I actually see him in you. I see you in him. I love you. I will always love you. And I pray that you're proud of me. I've tried to do the best that I can with what life gave me, especially with you not being there to hold my hand. Just chill. I'll see you sometime. Maybe not soon, because I also don't want to see you that soon. But I can't wait to actually hug you again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We hope they can hear. We just hope they can be able to hear. There's so much we wish we can tell them. There's so much we wish to tell them, you know, but I think they're in a better place, you know, as we always just say, they're in a better place, and yeah, God has been faithful. We are here, we've made it this far, and yeah, I know we will be able to continue being strong, even, but we are allowed to not be strong when you feel like you can't be strong. Yeah, so thank you so much for doing this with me. So guys, we've partnered with All Smiles Therapy, and we wanted to sponsor one of you to a therapy session. Someone who's gone through the same thing, and you feel like there are things you really need advice, or there are things you need to talk to someone. Maybe you've never been able to talk to someone about what you've been through, about your loss. We've partnered with All Smiles Therapy, and we want to sponsor one of you to this beautiful session where you're able to talk to someone and they can be able to help you. So you can leave your comments there and we'll be able to go through them, or you can write me an email on zawadililian@gmail.com. I'll leave all the details on the description box, and once we go through all of them, we'll sponsor one of you to have this session. So thank you guys, and we hope this is relatable, and we apologize if it's triggering. Of course, it's a very triggering topic, but we thought we would be able to talk and share and have a conversation around it, because we realize we've never even talked about some of these things after they happen. So if you've made it to the end of this video, once again, thank you so much for sticking around. Continue to like the videos and comment, and also hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends about this channel, and see you again on the next one. Thank you so much, Julie, for coming, and God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you. I've had such a relieving time. Yeah, it's been very therapeutic.
It's good to have you. Thank you so much for doing this with me. May God continue giving you peace, and may God always guide you. And as always, let's remember that God is a father to the fatherless, and He will always father us. He's always going to be there for us, even when we feel like the world is not enough for us. So yeah, cheers guys, and have a good time.